Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to the third session for Michigan Energy Summit. We're talking with financing your upgrades, the bottom line, and how the numbers made sense. So we have today talking with us Bali Kumar, CEO of Lean and Green Michigan, who will be speaking about PACE. Mary Templeton, CEO and President of Michigan Saves, who will speak about Michigan Saves, and two building owners, special guests who have actually participated in these programs. Mr. Eugene Franklin, he is the chair of the Detroit Unity Temple, and Steve Antaya, he's the president of Tom's Food Center. So without further ado, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. It's a popular topic every year at the Michigan Energy Summit, and it's turning into a classic very quickly. So let's start with Bali Kumar to give us an introduction of what PACE is all about. Bali, can you come on stage, please?
All right, good morning. And thank you for hosting this amazing event. Every year, this event is so innovative and thoughtful. And so I really appreciate the ability to be here and speak in front of you all. All right, so my name is Bali Kumar. I'm CEO of Lean and Green Michigan. Lean and Green Michigan is the PACE financing administrator around the state of Michigan. And so one thing I want to do is start off with a poll to see how familiar folks are with PACE. So hopefully we get that one up and running. And while that is up and running, I'll just chat a bit more about PACE. PACE is an acronym. It stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. In 2010, Michigan passed the Property Assessed Clean Energy Act, which allows for commercial, industrial, multifamily, nonprofit, and agricultural property owners to take advantage of up to 25-year financing to finance energy efficiency, renewable energy, and water conservation measures on their property. And so when I'm talking about all of these things, we've aggregated some data over time. We've completed 28 projects, PACE projects in Michigan thus far, helping property owners access over $50 million in financing. And so, just based off of quick math, it's about, a little under, on average, $2 million per project, but the project sizes have gone down, from as little as 117,000 and as much as $11 million. So a variety of property owners have taken advantage of it, small and large. And it works for new construction properties as well. So we're seeing properties that are new construction or adaptive reuse insert PACE in their capital stack, because PACE financing is cheaper than mezzanine debt and it's cheaper than raising additional equity. So we're finding that, the incentive to build a more sustainable building through this financing is pushing people who aren't even necessarily inclined to do a cleaner energy building or a more sustainable building, but they need the financing, and PACE pushes them in that direction because it requires them to build something more energy efficient than they otherwise would have built. Through our projects, just looking at the stats that I've pulled up, we have projected, and by we, I mean the energy engineers that are affiliated with the projects have projected over 2 million tons of CO2 savings, over $180 million or 180 million gallons of water saved, by things like low flow toilets, low flow shower heads. We had a green roof project we worked on recently, and over approximately $3 billion kilowatt hours of electricity savings. PACE is an opt-in program, which means that local governments opt in to creating a PACE district wherein residents, and property owners can take advantage of PACE. So it's not everywhere in Michigan, but we do represent 47 local governments around the state, representing 73% of the population. So we're in most of the areas, and the list of where we are is on our website, www.leanandgreenmi.com. And I don't want to take up too much time, but I think I might have a few more minutes. So I'll just sort of dive in a bit more about PACE. So PACE is a voluntary special assessment on a property owner's property tax. And so honestly, most people just think about it as a loan, and functionally it is a loan, but legally it is a property tax. And so what that means is that it's a very secure lien for lenders, which is why these lenders are willing to do 25-year terms. Also, as a property tax, it runs with the land, so it's non-recourse, which is something beneficial to some property owners. You know, if they sell the property, they walk away from the assessment because the assessment runs with the property. It doesn't run with the property owner. So lots of interesting facets of PACE, and I'm trying to see if I can I see the results of the polls? There are definitely some polls posted in the polls tab. So to the right, if you look up, there's a chat, but if you scroll up to the top of the chat, on the right, you can click over to polls, and there are 3 different polls about PACE that you all can answer. And then once I get those answers, I will go a little bit more in depth. But yeah, honestly, even the polls on this show that for PACE, some folks are really interested in the fixed interest rates because it allows for people to long-term plan costs. Some are interested in the term. If someone needs $1 million to upgrade a facility, paying it back over 3 years or 5 years is a big payback every year. Paying it back over 25 years is a much smaller payback every year. Some of the accountants in the house may think about on-balance sheet versus off-balance sheet treatment. And some care about the fact that it runs with the land. So yeah, very interested to see and discuss with you all further, especially during the Q&A. And I will hand it back over to Jillian.
Hi, Bob. Thank you for that. Oh, is there an echo? So folks, that was Bali Kumar. He was the CEO of Lean and Green Michigan. And he is a phenomenal person to talk about PACE. I love how personable he makes things with being able to go to building owner meetings and explaining it just like personably. So if there is any questions about PACE continued, I'm sure that Bali will be able to share some contact information for PACE and talk more about Lean and Green Michigan. We always host things regarding financing for green buildings. So if you have a curiosity and want to talk with one of us, we're definitely able to lead you in the right direction regarding that. There's an expo too that has a few contractors who are experienced with PACE. So don't be shy on getting to know some of them. So I'd love to welcome to the stage Mary Templeton. She's the CEO and president of Michigan Saves. And this is a green bank, similar and different than PACE itself. And I'm sure that we're going to get into the contrasts between the two of them. And I won't waste any more time talking about bringing Mary to the stage, because here she is, and I can't wait to hear what Mary has to say. So thank you so much for being here, Mary.
Thanks, Jillian. I really appreciate you inviting me. Really appreciate you hosting this event over the last several weeks. I know Todd O'Grady has been participating in the expo, and it's been really fun. So thank you for that. We are, like Jillian said, Michigan's nonprofit green bank. You may be asking yourselves, what is a green bank? Well, our goal is to make it really easy and affordable to finance any kind of green project. So if you think about energy efficiency, like HVAC equipment, insulation, doors, windows, cooking equipment, lighting, indoor, outdoor lighting, or any kind of renewable energy like solar or geothermal, and electric vehicle charging stations, water efficiency, pretty much anything that falls under that green umbrella. Our goal is to make it really easy, really affordable for anyone to be able to finance those measures. We started back in 2008 with a grant from the Michigan Public Service Commission, and the goal in that, in creating Michigan Saves, was to break down any barriers to people being able to do energy efficiency and renewable energy work. Since then, we've done about $280 million worth of financing, about 20,000 customers in all segments. So that covers the residential segment, the commercial segment, and the commercial segment is really broad. It's for-profit organizations, nonprofit organizations, the public sector like schools and county buildings and city buildings, and any other kind of non-residential building we're able to do energy efficiency and renewable energy financing for. The way that we work is that we work with a network of private lenders who do the financing. And what we do is we support those lenders by offering them credit enhancements, which help them to make it, to offer more financing to more businesses and individuals, and to kind of like create terms that really, really work for the marketplace. So there may be some lenders that create a little bit longer terms to make that payment more affordable. There may be lenders that offer financing to businesses that are a little bit more risky. The lenders may offer a little bit more less risk-averse lending. So there may be a building that has just started or a business that has just started that wouldn't be able to finance with other kinds of financing, and typically our lenders are able to approve those. We also work with a fine network of contractors, many of whom I imagine are on this call today. We really appreciate all of the work that they do to make it, once again, really easy for business owners and residential customers to do energy efficiency and renewable energy improvements. You're going to hear later today on the panel from Steve from Tom's Market. He's one of our customers. We've got a number of other case studies on the commercial side. We've got, for example, the Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church in the city of Detroit did some lighting improvements both in the sanctuary and in other areas of their house of worship, really helping them to not only save money on their utility bills, but also improve the experience for their parishioners as they come in to the church and reflect. We've gotten we've been able to serve not only all segments, but all throughout the state. An example of that is the Baraga Lakeside Inn. That's in the Upper Peninsula. It's a hotel. And one of the things that we heard them say was that with the new lighting, it was such a nice experience for them that they were able to even attract new customers and get those customers to come back more because the experience was just so much better. So it isn't only the energy savings, it's the experience that they're able to offer to their customers. We have several bars and restaurants that have improved their facilities with not only HVAC equipment, but also solar equipment. We've got some municipal facilities like the city of Fraser who have installed lighting inside and out and saved money from day one. It's a really, like I said, you'll hear from Steve from Tom's Market, and he'll be able to give you some more insights into exactly how the process works. What I'd like to talk to you now about is what the financing can offer you. So what are the rates, the terms, and what some offers, some special offers are that you could potentially take advantage of. So here are the details. The financing starts at $5,000. So even some of those really small projects can be financed. Our financing does go up to $2 million plus. So if you have a larger project that you'd like to finance with us, you're welcome to do that as well. Like I said, it's for every single business segment. The rates typically start around 6.5% or 7%. The terms are typically between like 2 and 7 years, but we do have some lenders that are going up to 12 years. And then in some special markets, they do go up to 20 years. I'll get into that in a minute. We do offer solar power purchase agreements. So if you are a nonprofit or even like a municipality and you wanted to install some solar panels and take advantage of the tax credits that are available, we work with a lender who has tax equity partners. So those tax equity partners take advantage of the tax credits. And then what that does is it makes the solar installation that much more affordable for our customers. We also have really special, very, very attractive financing that's supported by our utilities. So many of the businesses that we've seen in this event in the past are in consumers energy and DTE territory and in some SEMCO territory. So if you are in consumers, DTE, or SEMCO territory, listen up. There's some pretty exciting offers that are supported by our utility partners. We're super grateful to them for that. Here are the details. Consumers Energy, we are offering $100,000 in financing at 0% for up to 3 years. So you can do a 3-year loan up to $100,000 at 0%. It's a special offer funded by Consumers Energy. It has to be an energy efficiency project. But if you want more details about that, you can ask Todd O'Grady at the expo after this. I believe Steve will talk about that as well because he participated in that. It's a great, great project that just really reduces the cost for you and kind of takes away any barrier. You can kind of use somebody else's money to be able to pay for that initial improvement and then realize the cost savings over time. That's for all businesses. The multifamily market, you can finance up to $75,000 for up to 3 years. I'm going to switch over to DTE now. DTE, which includes multifamily, you can finance up to $150,000 for up to 36 months at 0%. Once again, 0%, no cost to you for the interest rate. And then 1.99% for up to 60 months. So if you want to take a little bit longer to pay off the loan, you want to make those payments a little bit more affordable, you can do 1.99% for up to 60 months for any kind of facility. And then we have SEMCO for the small to medium-sized customers. You can do a 0% financing for up to $25,000. There are some exceptions to that. So if you want to do a little bit more than that, just reach out to us and we can see if we can get that approved. But that's another 0% for up to 60 months for the small to medium customers on the SEMCO side. So really, really great offers that are available to you. The contractors that you work with can explain those as well. And like I said, if you have any questions, we can talk about that in the expo. The way that the process works is if you are a business owner and you want to take advantage of either the interest rate buy downs or any other financing, what you do is you choose your contractor and the contractor will help you facilitate the loan process. The loan is typically a very, very short application and it gets approved usually within 24 hours. So it's very, very fast and quite easy. If you are a contractor and you want to use Michigan Saves in your work, if you want to offer Michigan Saves to your customers, you can go to our website, go to the contractor section, and you can see what you need to do to apply. You can apply online. We do some background checks and check to make sure that you have all the right credentials. And then once you do that, we train you. So you do have to participate in a small training program. And then after that, you can offer the financing to your customers. So we'd love to have you join. If you have any questions, let us know. And then finally, in summary, our intention as a green bank is really, really to help. We want to help those in rural areas and urban areas, for-profit organizations, nonprofit organizations, no matter what type of business owner. We are an accessible, affordable financing program, and our intention is to help break down any barrier that you might have to doing any kind of renewable energy or energy efficiency improvement. If there's something that you see or need, either on the contractor side or the business side, or even our nonprofit partners that we work with all over the state, let us know. We're always looking to address barriers in the marketplace, and we're always looking on the horizon for what else we can do to support the industry. So give us that feedback. It helps drive our improvements, and we really appreciate that. Some other points, just to kind of reiterate, that differentiate us a little bit is that there are no audits required. So you can, if you have some equipment that breaks, you can replace it really easily with our financing. There's no energy savings ratio. We have a list of measures that are energy efficient or renewable energy measures. As long as it qualifies for that, it will qualify for our financing. All building types, including schools, nonprofits, municipal facilities, the public sector, solar power purchase agreements are available, and they're especially effective for those that don't have a tax burden. And then we do have some special financing for affordable multifamily. Those are the ones that do go up to 20 years. There are some requirements for that, but it's unsecured. Which is really important in the affordable multifamily space, especially with those properties that have a HUD mortgage. And then to close, if any of you have, your own homes that you live in that you want to do energy efficiency or renewable energy work, check out our residential program. It's super easy, super affordable, offers great rates and terms, right around 5% fixed rate, no upfront payment required, and you can finance that for up to 15 years with our lenders. So if you want to do some work in your own homes, please check us out. And we're really grateful, Jillian, to you and the rest of the team there, and to all of our contractors, our utility partners, and our nonprofit folks, and all of the business owners who are making our state cleaner, more affordable, and really protecting our natural resources. So I will close with that, and back to you.
Thank you, Mary. That was so good. Folks, Mary is a wealth of knowledge, and all the folks who work with her at Michigan Saves are as well. As you may have mentioned, there's an expo. There's a booth they have in the expo that can talk to you one-on-one to continue on this conversation if you're curious about knowing more information. So thank you, Mary. And now I'm going to invite everybody else to come back on and share your screens, or come on stage, as what this virtual world calls it. In the meantime, now it's time for a panel discussion to kind of dive deep into the green financing mechanisms, because they fill a very unique place in the market right now, especially as building owners are looking to purposely invest in energy reductions, or it's just, end of life of equipment and it's time to change them over anyway. And I love that after our audits in the energy assistance program, when folks come to the point of, wow, well, this is great, what's next? And the what's next always pedals to, how are we going to afford it? So if they have their own cash flows, if they have their own grants, that's phenomenal. But also plugging in how Michigan Saves and PACE can build that niche for them too. It seems to bring the conversations for all sorts of building owners to the next level of implementation. So I would love to kind of help the audience understand the comparing, the contrasting of where Michigan Saves and PACE overlap and where they're separate. I know that was a question that was asked in the on the stage as well. So maybe Bali and Mary, could you give a quick synopsis of the differences?
Totally. And I'll just jump in, and I'll also say, or I'll ask Eugene to share his screen so that way he can join the panel as well. All right, so honestly, together, Michigan Saves and PACE cover any property in Michigan that needs anything for energy efficiency or something like that. So, there's some overlap there. It's sort of like a Venn diagram. PACE specializes in commercial, industrial, multifamily, nonprofit, and agricultural properties. So we don't do residential, and because it's a lien, there's certain HUD properties that we're not able to work with because HUD doesn't want to take doesn't want to allow financing in that potentially messes up their lien status as like the primary lien holder. And I'm always happy to discuss that stuff because it always seems like it's project by project. But we don't do residential. We can't do government types of properties, and we don't have lenders who are willing to lend less than about $75,000. And even at that level, we really only have one. And so, a lot of the smaller projects, we spoke to a property owner, and then we'll just refer them to Michigan Safe. So we'll say, oh, you run a small bar and you want to do about $20,000-$30,000 of work to upgrade your bar. We can't help you with that, although you would like to pay it back over 25 years. Which, of course, $1,000 a year, why not? But like we say, but you need to do the upgrade. So we refer over to.
Yeah, I agree, Bali. And I always like to be on a panel with Bali and the folks from Lean and Green because, like you said, Bali, that state of Michigan, I think, is super lucky, right? Like we have between both of our programs the opportunity to finance pretty much any project that anyone within the state wants to do, which is really, really a benefit. Just to reiterate some of the things that Bali said and then add on from there, we started with some of the smaller projects. So originally we were only doing up to 250,000. Those kind of break fix things that need something to be implemented really quickly within a couple of days. Those that need to be approved very fast. Those are projects, and the smaller ones can go through Michigan Safes really, really quickly. Like I said, you don't need an audit. So if you know that it's just a piece of equipment that needs to be replaced, you can do that really easily. You don't need the energy savings calculation to occur, and you don't need to be cash flow positive from day one. So if a business makes a choice, right? Like I want to pay a little bit more right now. My loan payment is going to be a little bit more than my energy savings, but over 3 years, I'll pay that off and then I'll have a very large energy savings. My utility bill will be that much less. That's perfect. You can do that with Michigan Saves. And yeah, Bali, we refer people back and forth all the time. If somebody wants a really long term, like if they really want they have a very comprehensive project and they want to pay for something over 20 years, for the most part, we cannot do that. Our lenders will go up to about 12 years. Some of them will go up to 15 years, but they aren't going to go all the way to the 20 years. And it's really affordable to do a 20-year loan at the rates that PACE offers them. So that's another differentiate. That's where our programs really, really complement each other. And then public sector, we finance any kind of public sector program or facility. So, and we can do up to $10 million in financing in those. So that's a pretty expansive offering that we have. And of course, the residential sector, and then finally HUD properties, we can do the long-term financing for those.
And for sure, it's sometimes tricky to find ways to work with HUD, and it seems like the Michigan Saves has been able to accomplish that.
Yeah, it's not been an easy process, but over the years we learn things, and then we found some lenders who have worked with HUD in other states, and they've been able to offer us financing for that.
Oh, perfect. And so I guess I'm kind of curious from in bridging off of Michigan Saves, Steve, from your perspective of being a recipient of a Michigan Saves loan, can you give us a thumbnail sketch of what that's like for Tom's Food Center on how you became a recipient of the Michigan Saves loan?
Well, we were working on our lighting upgrade for our Okemos location, and we worked with a firm called MES to kind of manage our rebates and manage the fixtures and finding the right fixtures. Especially that location has some really older style oddball overhead lighting that we had there. So it was kind of as a package there where they presented a lot of options, Michigan Save being one of them. And in that location, we're consumers, customers, so we were eligible for the 0%. Our project fit perfectly into their package. Pretty much hit the 100,000 right on the nose, and I mean, like right on the nose, and it made it very easy. You know, my ESCO handled, between the consumers and the Michigan Save things, they handled a lot of that. So it was just basically evaluating the programs, looking at the rebates, and it was, okay, let's go. And it'd been something we've been looking at for quite some time in that location. Again, those fixtures were very old, early 90s, T12, rough, real rough. So between the maintenance and everything, it would just kind of the timing. But ironically, at both of our locations, we've had some challenges with finding fixtures that work for our building. And we've been looking at this for a number of years, and this, you know, this year was just kind of the right time where the tech caught up with our needs, the right fixtures surfaced without making sacrifices, and it just kind of all fell together this summer with all the different programs.
For folks who aren't familiar with MyESCO, could you quickly let us know who they are?
They are, how to describe MyESCO, but basically they're a firm that does different energy lighting. I think they have a niche in supermarkets. I think they also do some other sectors as well, but they have some lighting engineering capability on staff. They handle our rebates, do all the calculations, which for us, being a smaller organization, we don't have that expertise on staff. And I mean, ironically, my brother actually can do a lot of it, but day-to-day stuff kind of gets in the way, and it's just like, okay, for what it's going to cost us through the rebate process, it's like, okay, that's just totally worth it. We don't have to monkey with it. And we've used them for a number of things, not only this Okemos project, we also did our Portland location this summer, which was not a Michigan Saves project, because we have Portland City Electric out there, and they don't participate in the program because they're about that big. But working with MyESCO and a few other resources that we have, and we did end up getting some rebates there working with their program, which I think is managed by Franklin. We still captured some rebates there and are just wrapping up that project this year as well. So.
And so the MyESCO as a contractor with Michigan, I mean, with Michigan Saves, Michigan Mary, you know what I meant.
Yeah.
Yes. Cool. So that's just an example of how the contractor can be such a pivotal role in Michigan Saves projects. And you said that you also received utility rebates, right, Steve?
Yes. We got rebates in Okemos from consumers. Let me scroll over my other screen here. So our total rebate for that project in Okemos was about $19,500, give or take. And after the fees that we paid MyESCO, that netted down to $16,500. So it's not chump change. And those fees were, like I said, for the ease of use, having to deal with it. I mean, the grocery business has been busy this year. To say the least. Yeah, right. Just so between just obviously being very much having our hands full, and as most people having staffing challenges and other challenges this year, having the ability to hand those things off to somebody was a godsend. It probably wouldn't happen this year if it wasn't for that.
Wow. And the rebates for that helped for it too.
Yeah, I mean, the rebates, the 0% program, I mean, we could have done the Okemos project without that, but just like we did Portland without it. But, that's $100,000 of capital that I can deploy elsewhere. And we've done, frankly, exactly that. We've done a number of upgrades to that store this year, still hoping to do a few more before the end of the year, because of the ability of spreading that out with basically no cost to us over 3 years, and taking that $100,000 and plowing it into other improvements. So
That's phenomenal. What upgrades have you done?
a lot of new cases. So we redid our deli and our bakery, redid our service meat case this year. We actually did a separate energy rebate project with some of our cases that we weren't replacing and did convert those to LED. That was like that was another project we got some consumers rebate for. And actually we got a third consumers rebate this year for our roof. We replaced the roof in that location. So, and we worked with Maesco on, the submission of all those rebates. So.
Oh, that's not chump change or
no. We're hoping to retile the floor by the end of the year as well. Yeah, that's a small project.
I'll have to find a way to stop by. Oh,
yeah.
But fun little fact for folks in the call: Steve actually used to be my employer when I was just a teenager at his Big B Coffee.
I did.
I'll have to stop by again.
Yeah, it would be great to see you.
Small world, Jillian.
That literally was not planned at all. Shout out to Todd O'Grady to make that happen.
Yeah. Can I ask a question, Jillian, or do you have a whole? So, Steve, the lighting is already in, right? Like
yes, we're Okemos. Yeah, Okemos is done. Portland is just about done.
Okay, so I'm just curious. We've heard from other customers if you've noticed any kinds of I don't know. It's probably hard to tell, but any other kinds of are your customers, do they notice a difference? Do your employees notice a difference? I know, just for example, one of the jewelry stores that we worked with in Kalamazoo, they said, once we get new lighting, the jewelry just popped and people were just really excited about it and they bought more stuff. So I'm curious if you've had any other kind of non-energy benefits that you've noticed at all.
Oh, for sure. One, just the maintenance of that location was a nightmare with those old T12s, and they had integrated emergency lighting, and the ballast on those was always a nightmare to get those to stay up. So the lighting is just more on, for lack of a better way to put it. It's completely on and not like, oh crap, that one's out. It just seemed like it was constant, having to get up there and replace them. So you have better lighting, the quality of light is better. In the food business, yes, LED has been a thing. And actually, we've been doing a lot of that for our case lighting and different smaller scale lighting for a number of years. And you notice a huge produce was probably the first one, because like your jewelry example, LED lighting, the right LED lighting just makes your colors pop. Everything looks fresher. Meat is another one, because obviously everybody wants that nice, juicy red steak. And those LED lights just make that kind of a thing pop. So, our original focus was getting some of those case lighting, and there's other energy benefits to the case lighting as well, because obviously less heat. And so if you're not heating up your cases, such as your freezers or what have you, you're going to save money on running those, in addition to the energy savings of just running the lights. So, and then this was a summer where the overhead came into play, and yeah, it's great. Yes, we've had some customer feedback. The employees are, definitely, enjoying it. That particular location in Okemos had some, I think they were metal halide spots over our checkouts that were a pain as well. And they really, especially in the evening, didn't light very, you just did get a lot of light. And now in the evening, like the cashier, it's just bright. It's, and they're not feeling like, oh man, I'm going to fall asleep because it's so dim up where my workstation. Well, hopefully not really, but that kind of a atmosphere.
It makes a difference, especially as the winter is coming through too, to have to have a place that it feels welcoming to walk into. That intrinsic value is really hard to put a number on, but it makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, actually, just when you mentioned the light being lower too, and with the season change, parking lot light, we did the parking lot lights out there. We probably got as many customer feedback about the parking lot lights as we did about the interior. It just was that much brighter.
Okay.
And just popped. So.
Okay.
Hey,
Yeah, Bob.
welcome.
Yeah, we got technical problems. I'm trying to work that out with you now.
No
Okay.
worries. No worries at all.
Okay.
So welcome, Eugene. Everybody on the call, this is Mr. Eugene Franklin. He's the chair of the Detroit Unity Temple. We're glad we were able to overcome some technical difficulties to get you on here today. Welcome. Welcome. So we were just speaking about Steve's experience in having the Michigan Saves loan as a part of energy upgrades at the Okemos location for Thomas Food Center. And
Testing.
Testing. Can you hear us? We can hear you. I'm gonna type to see if you can see that instead. Okay. We can hear you. I'm going to continue the conversation, and Eugene, if you can start hearing us, feel free to say something. I do remember there's a little bit of a delay last time. So Steve was talking about the value of having the Michigan Saves loan as not only an energy saver and a money saver, and with really cheap money too, like 0%, works fantastically. I'm wondering if Bali and Eugene could talk about the Detroit Unity Temple's experience too, because it's just such a success story. And there seems to be a lot of parallels between Steve's experience with energy upgrades there and Detroit Unity Temples too. So same results and slightly different mechanisms to get there. Do you want to take it away, Bali?
Perfect. And I'm happy to kick it over to Eugene to share his experience, because every property owner's experience is really the meat of why we're here. But I'll just say that Eugene took advantage of the PACE Express program, which is for projects at the $250,000 threshold and below. And so we've created this program under PACE to make it a bit easier for folks to access. There's no requirement for an energy audit that's guaranteed that shows that the savings is greater than the investment. So hopefully under the PACE Express program, it's a bit easier to get a project done. Over to you, Eugene.
Thanks.
All right, maybe I'll just keep diving in. Eugene, whenever you want, feel free to cut me off and tell us about your experience. The Detroit Unity Temple took out the maximum under the PACE Express program. So they took out exactly $250,000. And they had been working with Right Energy Partners and with Bob Matler at Green Portfolio Solutions to come up with, it's a very historic house of worship. And so, with a building that's 100 or so years old, there are plenty of opportunities for energy efficiency, like lighting, insulation, building envelope, roof repair. And so Eugene had been working with the good folks at Right Energy Partners and at Green Portfolio Solutions to find what needs to be upgraded and, create a list and hierarchy of what needs to be done. And so, the retrofit. The retrofit of the building, very, very important, especially for a house of worship where expenses matter. And so for a lot of nonprofits, we're hearing from nonprofits that expenses matter a lot. And anything to decrease expenses, but not similarly increase expenses by the same amount, is a lot. So even though there's no requirement for the Detroit Unity Temple to save more than they were planning to invest in the property. The projected energy savings, $250,000 worth of work, is $527,000. So still well worth doing.
So Eugene, I understand that you're having trouble hearing us, but we can hear you. So
Okay, Jillian, I see your statement, and I will tell you the Detroit Unity Temple story, and you and I can communicate it through the chat to let me know that everything is still going okay. Our church, a house of worship, built in 1950s, in 1951, as a matter of fact, and it's a beautiful building. It was modeled kind of sort of after the Detroit Institute of Arts, and it's that white marble. And at the time it was built in Palmer Park, it was the most outstanding building on the west side of Detroit. And aesthetically, it was everything we always wanted it to be, but it wasn't energy efficient. And we now in the 2000s realized how much help the building needed. He said in 2014, a study was done by our congregation, by the board of directors, and they found that we needed over $375,000 worth of repairs to invest in the building to keep the building up to stuff. And so we set about in 2020 to try to find ways to meet the challenge. And I happened to come across the PACE project. And I called, I followed the person to contact was Bob Matler with the Green Portfolio Solutions. And I called him, I asked him to tell me about PACE. And he and I held discussions about PACE. I went back and I did research because it sounded so good. I thought that it couldn't be true. So I did some research. I took it back to my board. My board assigned a couple of committees for us to look at the whole process because we were skeptical about a project like this. Then we found out that it had the backing of the government, not only the county government, but the state government. We saw the documentations, and then we invited Bob to come out to the congregation to talk to the residents and the congregation about the program. There were questions. Will the project do what we think it's supposed to do? For $250,000, the work that was going to be done was guaranteed. And that was one of the things that excited the congregation, that it was going to end up being a net zero project, because the money we put in, we were going to get back in energy savings. And we had, I don't know, we had Bob Madler come back. He met with me first, then he met with a smaller committee, and then we had him meet with a larger group. Then Bob came back and he met then with, at our annual meeting. As a matter of fact, Bob spent more time at our temple than he spent at his own temple. He was a big help to us to bring clarity to the questions that people had. And as a matter of fact, we even invited Bali Kumar, and we had a huge meeting with Michigan Save, Bali Kumar. We had Bob Madler. We had one of the construction team to come in to talk about the work that they had investigated and done for our temple. They presented us with a huge perspectives about what they could do. A company that was both American and Canadian came through, and we had energy efficiency work done. Well, we found that we had a crack in our heat exchanger. And that was the big thing, one of the big things, because people were under the impression that we were getting not just gases into the sanctuary. That turned out to be false because we did a study, and we invited a Boilermaker to come. The Boilermaker told me, he said, Eugene, he said, I'd like to sell you a furnace for this facility. He said, but with the age of the building, the asbestos, he said, it's going to cost you more than you want to know. And he told me a huge number, and it was, you know, it was very disheartening. But before he left, he said, you know, he said, wait a minute. He said, there may be another alternative. He said, you might be able to call on a Boilermaker to come in and see if he can repair the cracks in your heat exchanger. And that's exactly what we did. And a guy came, and I saw this guy crawl in our furnace and repair the cracks in the heat exchanger. The key thing was that the cracks that we had on the heat exchanger were on the exhaust side and not on the production side. So it meant that we weren't getting bad gases in the building because it was on the exhaust side. At any rate, the work that was done in our place was absolutely amazing. The lighting work brightened up the facility. It was so timely because shortly after they finished, the pandemic struck, and we were doing live streaming. And if we had the live stream with the old lights in the church, you wouldn't be able to see. But with the new lighting that we have in the church, it was just a beautiful thing to happen for us. Like I said, it was right on time. The other thing, we used some of the funds to enhance the ladies' room and all of the places where we have Congress come through, because people couldn't see what we did on the roof. They couldn't see what was happening in the furnace. But some of the other improvements that we were able to make, we stopped the draft coming into through the windows, because we were losing $100 a day through drafty windows. They were beautiful by design, but they just weren't energy efficient. So the whole project with energy efficiency has been a godsend for the Detroit Community Temple. And I'd be more than willing to talk to anybody about PACE, about Green Portfolio Solutions, and the other team that came in to help us save our building. Because, to be honest with you, Mother Nature is undefeated. And our building without any repairs would have been a disaster in the next 5 or 10 years. My story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you, Eugene. I don't know if you can hear me quite yet, but I want to reiterate how important.
Yeah, the thing about the payments, yes. One of the reasons that we went with PACE over a traditional bank, some banks might have made us a loan, but the max was going to be 5 years, and the size of what we were trying to pay back would have been a burden for the church. So because we worked with PACE, we were able to spread it out. And the biannual payments, we started a project we called the Capital Fund Drive, so that we could be certain that we had each payment made. We saved it in advance, and it's been a big help to us. we were able to manage this at the Detroit Unity Temple in an organized fashion. And we're pleased about it. Absolutely. We did want to mention too that once we installed the lights and had some of the energy efficiency work done, we got rebates from some of the companies because it saved us. It saved us. It looks like it's going to do all of the things that we thought it was going to do. Our energy consultant gave us a projection, and well, we were supposed to compare year to year, but since the pandemic, the building isn't getting the same use, so it's difficult for us to know how much we're saving. But we do know, we can tell that we are saving because of the efficiency that we have in the building, the lack of drafts, of the lights. We know that we're on the right track.
So, so for the audience, I'm typing and talking at the same time.
Okay.
So sorry about that. But Eugene, thank you so much for talking about this, because I love talking with you on the phone the other day and hearing all the details from the DUT, the Detroit Unity Temple. They are Michigan's first house of worship that received PACE financing, and so that's a huge deal. And I'm wondering, Bali, if you could summarize the numbers of this amazing project real quick.
Perfect. Yeah. And so again, they took out the maximum under the PACE Express program of $250,000, and the predicted savings from that is $527,000. Their term was a 20-year assessment, so they'll be paying it back over 20 years, which means small repayments twice a year. But also note that under PACE, some property owners can work with their lenders to delay repayments. And so you can pay back over 20 years, but you can have your first payment date due in 2021 or in 2022, depending on which lender you work with. So in this case, Detroit Unity Temple is going to start paying back in 2022, which means they got in money. They're going to be reaping savings from eliminating the waste, and that savings plus, the money that they raise can be put into a slush fund to start paying back once they start their repayments in 2022.
And thank you, Bali. And for folks who are interested in learning more from what Eugene and Bali's story were, go ahead and put some things in the chat to get the conversation started with the curiosities that you might have. And what I find interesting about particularly Steve and Eugene's stories is that as we're going through this global pandemic, there are quite different ways to be operating your building than what were done just last year. For example, Steve's grocery store is very, very active, and DUT has been able to find ways to serve the community in their parking lots and through other socially distanced but very loving ways. Eugene was just telling a story how there's a trunk or treat, and how throughout all the whole pandemic, they were a space where people would come for essential needs, and from foods to like toiletries and such, to even medicines and getting flu shots. So DUT is a staple that is in the community, and they are optimistic about the PACE savings in their capital campaign, even if the building is not being used in its typical ways. So it's difficult to be able to see what the energy savings would be if there was not a pandemic right now. Though, nevertheless, Mary and Bali, what would you consider as 2020 wins in this industry, and the like trends that you were not anticipating, though have shown to be beneficial for green buildings?
So I guess, Bali, you want me to go first? And we can maybe go tag team a little back and forth. So 2020 wins. Boy, Jillian, that's really hard because 2020 has been kind of a really difficult year on so many fronts, right? And for so many businesses too. I mean, you think about the contractors and businesses that have had to adjust, or my heart goes out to a lot of businesses everyone has had to adapt in really, really significant ways. So I want to acknowledge that and just know that I see what everybody's had to adapt with, and my heart goes out to everyone, and I'm hoping that it won't be long before we can kind of get back to a place where things are operational as they have been. But having said that, from the win perspective, a few things that I've seen that have helped on the commercial side of the house. Some of the businesses and schools and buildings were empty for a little while, and so with them being empty and knowing that they were going to come back, that was a good time to get contractors into the buildings without any risk of spreading COVID. So the timing was kind of nice from that factor. A good thing also is, and Bali and Eugene mentioned this, the lenders that we have been working with, and it sounds like Pace has been working with as well, have been really, really good about acknowledging the financial situation that people are in. And so they've been more lenient, number one, but then also they've offered, when people have requests to defer payments, or even if they're in the middle of an existing loans, they've been really flexible with them. They do that on an individual basis, but they've been really good about adapting. The other thing that I would tell you are the utility rebates are just really, really important at this time. There was something else that I wanted to mention, but on the residential side, and I know most of the audience here is not residential, but everybody lives in a home or is in a home. There's been a lot of activity. We thought that it was going to be very, very difficult, but people are welcoming contractors into their homes. They're welcoming people that work for the utility to do energy audits into their homes. They're spending a lot more time in their homes. And so they're seeing that their utility bills are increasing, and they're looking for opportunities to reduce their expenses there. And so we've been able to help that out. And the contractors on the residential side are really, really busy.
I'll agree with a lot of what Mary said. I'll agree particularly with the point that a lot of buildings are empty now because a lot of people are working remotely. And I've had many conversations with folks who are like, oh, I've always been thinking about making my building more energy efficient to bring down costs generally, but haven't had time. I don't want to kick everybody out for 2 weeks or 4 weeks while we upgrade the building. But now here we are with an empty building. Might as well start thinking about doing the work. So that is, I also hesitate to call anything really a win this year, but this is a year when everyone is learning to be more nimble, and that is one of the nimble things that's come out of this. What PACE also allows for is for people to refinance work that was previously done. And so folks, we go back about 3 years. If folks have done work in the last 3 years on their property, paid for it out of pocket or paid for it with a bank loan or raised equity or whatever, and they actually want to put that money back in their pockets and reimburse themselves. We've had a lot of conversations, and I see the market sort of going that way, where someone's like, oh, well, I did solar and got new windows and improved the lighting, and I paid for it because I had money in the bank and the business is doing well. Now actually give me all that money back and I'll pay it back over the next, 15, 20, 25 years. So I've seen that come to fruition, and we've done a lot of thinking about COVID-related PACE-eligible upgrades. Yeah. We had a webinar on that recently, and so I think there's a lot of just thought process around energy efficiency plus virus mitigation and how that work for HVAC. And so, thinking about folks who need to upgrade their HVAC anyway and want to incorporate some sort of virus mitigation standard with it is another area that folks are thinking about.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Bali, that we've seen that as well. Like improved ventilation is just a really smart, you're going to look at that anyway when you upgrade your HVAC system. So we've seen people paying attention to that and doing more on that front. And that's one of the things that I think is really good in any case, whether you have COVID or not. So.
Do you find that when folks are seeking a project to be going through a pace machine saves, that they find a way to find co-benefits for the multiple things they're trying to accomplish? For example, better indoor air quality, or maybe, if we do insulation, that means we also get to, change our siding. Do you find that folks find ways to have a more encompassing picture with their projects besides just strictly energy savings? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I think it does, and I think it. I think that there are all kinds of ways to approach a project. Like if you have really old lighting and you just want to do the lighting, you do that, right? But like you said, if you're going to do insulation, maybe it's time to look at other measures that you might do. And then there's always the holistic approach where you can come in and do some really intensive audits, some ASHRAE level audits, and get a big picture of what you're doing, and then kind of map out how you want to finance it. Do you want to do it over time? Do you want to do it all now? There are all different ways to look at that. And there's also not only the energy efficiency component to it, but there's water savings measures, there's solar, there's electric vehicle charging stations. Like all of those are available in both of our financing products. And so to look at it kind of holistically, we see people entering the picture at all different points, right? Like some just want to do really small, simple ones, and then others want to go all the way. And I think between both of our financing, we're able to serve the customers and meet them wherever they are.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there are a lot of times when business outcomes and energy efficiency are aligned and people aren't even necessarily thinking of it as energy efficiency. It just sort of happens to be so. And so I started taking some notes. We worked on a project where one of the outcomes is going to be solar carport. And it's not because they wanted to do solar, it's because they want to do a carport. But here's a clever way for me to get some savings. And, people, not everybody is necessarily super desirous of energy efficiency, but they are super desirous of achieving savings. So in that case, that made sense for someone who wasn't otherwise thinking about doing solar. Or if a roof needs repair, and it's energy efficiency, because if you have a hole in your roof during the winter and during the summer, you waste it. But it's a good way to just spruce the building up, and sprucing the building up just shows an image of a healthier business or something like that. And some folks, I was talking to a developer yesterday who cares a lot about branding this new construction project, and the fact that it would be an energy efficient building above code would allow him to go to market and to potential tenants and say, hey, you're coming to the top of the line building. You're not coming to just some any old building. This is a top of the line building, and as such, we're commanding top of the line rents. But it's worth you to do it because you're going to spend less on the rest of the bills. So it's going to be net neutral for you, and you get to say, look at the amazing building on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about what 2020 trends would be unanticipated with this global pandemic. Are there things that have stayed the same since before this obvious change in the way that we operate? Are there trends 2018, 2019 trends that still hold strong even through this year that you would expect in 2021 as well?
I think I think this is all about who has adequate knowledge of our programs. And so Mary and I have been running around the state, in some cases running around the nation, just proselytizing that these programs exist. So if people don't know the programs exist, then nobody's going to do anything. I think once people start to see that the programs exist, it becomes more and more of a no-brainer, and the uptick is just meteoric.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with that. And, in terms of trends, it seems to me, and we've been in this for quite some time, so we're probably a little jaded. It seems to me that, energy efficiency have been here for a really long time. And it always makes a good business decision, to stop wasting energy just makes sense to me. So I think that will continue. I think that there is more interest. I do believe that there is, it's just not talked about a lot, and you can't see it, you can't feel it, right? So outside of like maybe replacing the lighting, but you can see a solar installation and people get excited about that and they say, oh, I want that on my building. They don't really, it's harder to see what happens on the guts of a building. But I think that the contractors have done a really good job of staying up to speed, staying knowledgeable about the improvements that are available to offer the customers. And the more that people know about that, the better that it is. And I think that those trends will continue. The energy efficiency wrapped with other things like solar and geothermal and even combined heat and power and electric vehicle. I think charging stations and electric vehicles are going to be much more, they're going to continue to grow as time goes on.
And yeah, that's clear. And with moving through this, 2020 changes of how we're perceiving, building usages, it doesn't change the fact that we need to use our buildings for something, and so to be able to equip it for how we see it in the next 5 or 10 years is, is always going to be a classic way that we look at development, Yeah. So I'm going to be shifting just a bit to combining questions that I personally have with you folks, as well as answering the questions from the audience too. And a question just straight to Steve is, have you seen your utilities go down? And generally speaking, by how much?
Yes, we have. Our project in Okemos got completed, August timeframe, July, August. And we've already seen that in a reduction. Frankly, I haven't had a whole lot of time to put numbers together. I do have our utility bill, which shows, substantial declines year on year. Obviously there's some environmental factors to that as well, how hot it is, how much you're running the air, but I mean, there's a noticeable decline. I have that available if I think we gotta flip somebody off in order to show it well.
Dare we even try?
Yeah. Who wants to volunteer?
To your screen? Because I'm willing to jump on and off if you want.
Okay.
Ready?
We can try it.
I will be right back, I promise.
All right, let's see what we got here. That's one set. All right. Well, of course it worked when we practiced this. All right, well, I guess I'll do it this way. Thankfully, I have two screens, and I can just move it over here and share that one. There. All right. So you can see this August timeframe here where the project was completing, and the way our bill is this August graph is actually July's usage. And we were pretty much even up with last year. And, before here in the beginning of the year, we were kind of neck and neck, or some months higher, some months lower. But you can see here on the project completion, since then, it's dropped dramatically. Obviously, some of that is also seasonality, but even vis-a-vis the same year, it's quite a difference so far. And as you can see down here in the bottom left, we use a bit of energy at our store. But so you can see it was about in November, you know, a little bit more than 30,000 kilowatt hours that we reduced. It's not chump change. So definitely have already seen the metrics there. I'm sure when our project is completed at the other store, we'll see quite a bit of improvement over there. Honestly, that store is, so the Okemos store for reference is about 36,000 square feet. Our Portland location is 60,000 square feet because we also have a hardware attendant kind of in combination over there. And actually, to Mary's point about home improvements and things like that, I mean, when you were saying that earlier, I'm like, oh yeah, our hardware has almost been, or probably in some ways lately, been busier than the grocery store. Everybody we know, personally, we're redoing our kitchen here in the next couple of weeks. Just everything. Just everything from grills to things around the house to everybody's just going, well, hey, you know, I'm gonna be here. I might as well do something to it.
No time to in the shed forever.
So it's been interesting for sure.
Is there any projects you have like on your wish list from like the multiple locations you have that now that this is complete, you have other energy efficiency projects you want to be working on?
This is probably the tail end of a lot of our energy efficiency items.
You're not talking about, are you, Jillian?
Oh, not yet.
No.
As I mentioned briefly before, we had kind of targeted our refrigeration. We did ECM motors a few years back with all of our cases that already didn't have them. Building controls building controls for Okemos, we don't have great set of building controls. So that'll probably be next year. Over there, Portland, we do. It was built with them. It's a little bit newer, but well, the core building is a little bit newer. That building is actually like 3 buildings all just added on to each other. Yeah, actually it's 60,000 square feet now. It started as 10,000 when we bought it in 1982. So it's like 3 different editions. But over there, our refrigeration's a little bit more modern. It's pretty much almost all converted to LED. We're replacing our deli case over there in a few weeks as well. And then that'll flop that over to LED. Let's see. Yeah. So we're kind of on the tail end of our energy stuff. The lighting was the last big project to do. We have a fuel center in Portland as well but that's only 10 years old, and that was built with a lot of energy in mind. But even then, we have a car wash there, and we converted those high bays into LEDs a couple years ago. They just, with the water that's involved in there, they didn't have one when we built it. But our canopy, our parking lot over there was all LED from day one. So yeah, we're on the tail end of things. The lighting was the final piece of the puzzle, and like I said, it took a lot to figure out the right way to attack it, just with the uniqueness of our different buildings.
Exactly. And how many buildings do you have again? What, 4 was it? I'm
sorry, say that again.
How many buildings do you have again?
We have the 2 supermarkets and the fuel center.
Okay, so it's 3.
Yep.
Do you want to talk about that? If Eugene will take this question, we're gonna have him talk about the utility rebate that he received from DTE. I don't think that he's able to hear us, so we're typing back to him. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead, Eugene.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't want to mention how much money it was, but it was a very nice rebate, and it really helped us to make our first payment. But it was more than we expected.
So that came as a cash check, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it was a cash check.
Perfect.
Yes. Beautiful cash check from TTE.
Right. And
went straight into our campaign fund.
That Drew Ross is on in the expo right now with the DTE booth, and she is responsible for helping the DTE rebates. So if folks are interested in hearing more information about that, go ahead and reach the expo booth and talk with her. Maybe she'll put some links in the chat shortly. One interesting question that came through from Isabel Bradbury was, has any consideration been made for the cooling effect of tree canopy for energy use reductions? I think this is more of a creative question for if you folks have ever seen anything like that from a landscape perspective in energy reduction projects, Bali and MES.
So, Jillian, it was hard for me to hear that.
Yeah.
But I think that you asked if tree canopy, like bringing in shade from trees, is a consideration when people are doing energy efficiency. Is that true? Okay. So we work with a network of contractors that focus on building equipment. So electricians and mechanical contractors, and they really know the buildings inside and out. And we have not heard any of them kind of branch out. Ha! Good pun, huh? Into trees. So we have not heard that. I imagine that could be a possibility, but I have not heard too much about that. So I'm unknowledgeable about that.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's worth doing. I am not sure whether we would be able to finance it either, because unless it improves the value of the land, and then we'd have to involve an appraiser to determine what increase in the value is. So it seems a bit tough, but it's definitely worth thinking about doing. And I think we really need to do everything, right? So planting trees for shade purposes is important, but it's also important for environmental purposes. And we also need to do energy efficiency, because renewable energy isn't the smart thing to do without also doing energy efficiency. So yeah, I think multiple ways to crack the egg.
Multiple ways to crack the egg. There's actually been a few questions regarding Facebook. But would you mind if I ask you them right now? And can you still hear me, folks? Yes? Okay, I'm gonna take that as a yes. So the question was, will PACE subordinate to existing or new loan financing? As well as, are there any new PACE markets opening up in the near future?
Cool. PACE is a property tax legally. So PACE cannot subordinate, because property taxes don't subordinate to other debt. But we always have conversations with mortgage lenders and other mortgage holders about PACE, because their biggest issue is if someone takes out, like Eugene, $250,000, nobody wants their debt to be subordinated to $250,000. But as a property tax, your bill comes up twice a year. And so over 20 years, twice a year, that's 40 different payments. And the senior lender is only subordinate to one payment. So that's 1/40th, it's at 2.5% of $250,000, which is beyond my mathematical comprehension right now. But it's like way less. And so we actually, it's like 62.50. tell me if I'm wrong. But I think it's like
I believe you.
you're supposed to like $6,250. You'll be fine if there's, you know, a bit of an issue, because it means that, you know, in the unlikely event of default, the 6,250 gets paid off first. The rest of it runs to the land, and then the other lien holders get paid back. So there's that. Places that we are trying to onboard probably at some point next year. We would love to have Kent County as a whole join the Lien Agreement and Case platform. There are cities in Kent County that have opted in, but, you know, to the extent that there's a property just outside of a city limit, it's just much easier to have the entire county. We're talking about Allegan and, you know, Allegan County. We're talking to some of the Southwest counties. Honestly, wherever there's a project, if there isn't a PACE district, we're happy to just set it up, because that seems to be the most convincing way for local government officials to create the district, not theoretically to have it if someone wants it, but because one of the constituents wants it now.
Oh, yeah, I see. So just because it doesn't exist currently in your jurisdiction doesn't mean that, you know, if they have interest, you can coordinate with their local government to see if that would be able to be a possibility for them wherever they are in Michigan.
Exactly.
Cool. So we're ending, we're coming to the end of this panel discussion. So real quick, I can't leave this behind. Leonard Harwell asks, does a 2 to 3 unit residential house qualify for financing with PACE or Michigan Saves?
So we do have lenders that are financing residential, and this would fall into our residential program. They are financing residential rental properties. The landlord is the one who would be financing it. Is it Leonard? Just check with Todd O'Grady at the Expo, and he can give you more information. Most of the lenders are offering that, but it just depends on where the property is located.
Yeah, and the definition of multifamily that we use is 4 units and above. So because it wouldn't necessarily qualify as multifamily, we may not be able to finance it because 2 or 3 units.
Right. So it seems like under the residential space that Michigan Saves has opportunities for that. And I've been telling Pat for this for a while, but, you know, when it comes to my own upgrades, I might have to go and take a look at Michigan Saves myself as a possibility for my energy improvements. So
do it, Jillian. You'll be happy.
Oh, yeah, because I'm not going to withstand one of those other winters again. I just realized there literally isn't any insulation in my old heritage house. But either way, besides that point, I'll be talking with you folks, and everybody in the call, you should follow my lead and figure out how to make our houses and our buildings more energy efficient any way possible. In the last minutes, I'd like to come with any final thoughts from you folks. We're really glad that you're here, all 4 of you.
We really appreciate you hosting this. It's just always just a great event. And Jillian, I give you so much credit, and Eugene, both of you, for managing through the technical difficulties. Just have done an elegant job, and it's very, very nicely done.
Oh, I'll pass that on.
And same, thank you so much for pulling this together in the middle of a pandemic, virtually, and still making it engaging and thoughtful and useful for us and for all the attendees.
Thank you, Bali, and thank you, Mary. And thank you, Steve, for taking time out of your super busy day to talk with us folks today. And for Eugene as well.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And thank you to our visionary sponsors also, who have been really supportive of Michigan Battle of the Buildings as an energy reduction competition, as well as the Michigan Energy Summit, the actual celebratory event. For folks who are interested in coming to next week and the day after, which will be the final award ceremony, it's this time every Thursday for next week and the week after. You can join the Michigan Battle of the Buildings website, the Michigan Energy Summit page, to be able to register for these next 2 events. And don't be shy. If you're curious or getting more involved, you know where to find us. And I'll even put my information in the stage event, on the event chat for you guys to get a hold of us. Mary and Bali both have opportunities to connect with you folks in networking or in the expo because they have booths. And we're just really grateful for everyone on the call. Thank you so much. And let's show our networking and expo some love. Before we go, I'm going to make sure that I give you all the final talking point question. I wonder if you guys had a good time talking about your best vacation. And now, folks, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this discussion. So go ahead and get networking and find who the secret person is with the gift card and expo. Take care, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Okay.
Thank you, Jean.